Hello, my name's Devin Martin, and for the past 2 weeks, I've been working on a personal finance manager application with my teammate Babila Fofang. And with our project, we were tasked with creating an application for personal finance management. So with our app, we decided to take a different approach. We have three main screens, which one of them is obviously the home screen. And within our app, we have these two other screens where essentially you would enter information in HTML forms, and then uh, it would get inputted into the local database. And then with that information, you put in, such as your debts, your expenses, your incomes, just to name a few. It gets visualized on a graph, and there are two main types of graphs that we have on default. Um, but with our application, there is a feature that essentially allows you to create your own graph and create the theming of the graph, if you want it a different color or whatnot. So that's what I'll be showing later on. And like I said before, we don't have a fully fleshed out login system, but pretty much each transaction that you save will only be to your information. So the graph, um, and even the none of the graphs and even the graphs you generate, they won't generate information based off of different names. It's just based off of your name. It's going to generate the information. So that's how much of the login system that we did integrate. And in the future, we'll probably think about starting on that initially. And this is a more concise view or wireframe of how the website would look. So we have a navigation bar. The navigation bar and the footer actually trade positions in the final development of the application. A logo, and then there's a brief tutorial on how to use the app. And then here's how the second page would look, which is the data entry page, how the information would look. The form right here then would show you all the updated information that you just entered right here. And then here's how the visuals representation of this would look. There will be a progress bar, but because in this section allows you to have saving goals, and you could see a progress bar also as well in this page right here. We could create your own graph and see the two graphs I mentioned earlier. And now I will demo this code properly. And here we are. If it would load all the way, but as you could see here, this is the Personal Finance Manager website. This is our logo. Uh, and when you click enter financial data, you can enter your name. So I'm just gonna name it like this. Name an arbitrary income of 1,000, expenses of 900, saving goals of that much, debt 50. And once you click save, it saves that into the database. You get a quick glance view. And then you could view the graph. And as you could see, I entered information beforehand, so that's why it kind of looks like this. But here's the income versus expenses graph, and then you could change the colors of it. And then the savings over time graph, if it will load, as you can see here. Okay, so continuing the demo of the code. Um, Let me just share that real quick. Mm, So yes, this is the website. add multiple entries to enter the financial data section. Let's see. Let's change it slightly. And then we could view the graph here. And like I said before, could have a line graph or bar graph. So we're going to choose line graph for this. You could see the trend line, and you could change the color of the trend line. Then it gives you savings over time. In that sense, we're in debt a lot. We don't get a lot of savings over time. But now my teammate Babila Fofang will go in depth at the code snippets that we use for this project.
Okay, so going into the slides with very specific codes, I wanted to highlight a lot of the very specific parts of our data entry. So looking at the previous entry display, as you can see here, and I've shown in a demo, if you look at enter financial data, you'll see how I put my name as an example. You have the income, the expense, saving goals, debt, the save data button, and the previous entries. So going into depth, specifically with the previous entries display, I placed this for all within just a size box. I then used an item. I used the item just to have the length be to a very specific box. The text be very specific within under the previous entries. And the way I was able to take in the entry of all the income, expense, savings, and debt, I basically had to use a map key to order to access each single entry that was entered before. And as you can see here, you will see how it's listed previous entries. So basically the entries will be from an ascending order. So the entries will start from the youngest down, and as you scroll down from the previous entries display, it'll be to the youngest to the oldest. And as you can see here, highlighted here, return card, and child is listed. You see the name is listed on the top as its own subtitle, and has its own properties. And then now we're going to look at how each data is being taken in. So both of these are going to be from the main Dart. As you can see here, I used a map string. I put them in a name, income, expense, savings, and debt. I specifically needed to use a map string dynamic entry, just so that it could save each previous input. But I specifically decided to use prefs just so it can actually be able to go on the graph. So as you can see here, I had the set strings, set integers, and then set double for depth, because the depth has to be calculated differently. It gets calculated from income minus expenses. And as you can see here from the constant text size box, I have a text field for all name, income, expenses, saving goals, and depth. And you can see this. I was able to regulate the size box for each one, and I've also had to save data here. Going into further coding highlights, for the way I was able to design the line and the bar graph display, the way I did it was that I had it take the entry for each time you would click on the save data point. It would always just only graph the newest data set that it was taking in. So it would take this in by taking the entry value, and the color will be determined by whatever color you pick through the drop down menu, as you saw Devin highlight. And so it would list them through income to expense. If it was listed this way, like as you can see here, the income will be on the x-axis, the expense will be on the y-axis. It'll be the same thing whether it's a bar graph or an income expense graph. And then as you go into the line graph, You can see here how I highlighted it. It would only progress over time from the income to where the expense would be. So looking at the financial data chart, the reason why we needed to use specifically the financial data chart was so it can actually be used to do all the different calculations for for the income and expense and the income expense, so we could actually calculate everything. So as you can see here, we had everything initialized. We had the financial data have it required the ID, income, expense, and name for all the different data entries. Then how we will get the debt to income ratio. Income. We'll do income, which will be just debt divided by income. Then we'll get the savings rate by doing income minus expenses. And as you can see, that was listed here and listed here. So find it, as you can see under the factory that I had to create a factory just for this, so it could actually take it from outside of the financial dart into the main. And as you could go to helper dart, this is where we were trying to do the CRUD operations to save all the previous entries. So as you could clearly see highlighted. So what did we learn from this project? We learned how to apply effective research and teamwork. I've had to use a lot of external sources to learn how to properly initialize a lot of data and initialize a lot of the data. I had to learn how to use graphing in Dart. That was probably the most difficult part of this application. This was mostly to Devin. We were able to calculate this to use the calculations that we had in the finance chart Dart, how to locally interact with the data in a data save. That's how we were able to access previous entries and have them placed on the bottom. And what we achieved, we were able to build widgets specifically designed to handle all of the calculations, and we're able to use CRUD operands just to make sure that we were saving all of our data within the chart. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know.